Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So, as promised, we saved the best for the last. This is going to be our final discussion for the InsurTech Summit 2021. We've got Vladimira from Exponential, and she's going to be moderating this session. So, Vladimira, over to you. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Anza. Hi, everybody who is watching us, and hello to my fellow participants today for the last panel. Indeed, we believe we'll be in somewhere cherry on the top, so we'll try our best. Our session is planned for about 60 minutes. We have an interesting topic here. I'm sure that a lot of interesting insights have been already shared through the whole day as part of the CFO Summit on the development around the InsurTech in Pakistan. I was personally very excited because there's a lot to sort of learn about the legal developments and progress in Pakistan in this space. And frankly, who best to ask about legal experts? So maybe a beautiful segue to sort of give a floor to my fellow participants and do a little intro. If you allow me, maybe just a sentence or two to also share about myself so that you guys understand who I am. So my name is, as Anza introduced, a little bit more exotic. So my name is Vladimira Mesko Briestenska. I am a partner and co-founder at Meme Exponential. We are a financial wellness platform based out of Pakistan. Financial wellness platform can be quite vague, but basically we're aiming to build sort of a 21st century deconstructed financial services institution. And the core essence of it is that we are working across deep industry verticals such as agriculture, education, healthcare, and sort of understanding or collecting a lot of data from those companies that we build or scale. And at the same time, we're embedding the financial services into those companies. And here's the place where the InsurTech actually comes in, because one of the embedded content verticals that we are integrating is insurance. So my other experience is really global. I have worked with InsurTech and fintech companies, both in the more developed markets across London and US, as well a little bit in Africa. So I'll try to share some of the learnings from that journey. So that's about me. There are maybe other layers, but I think that's probably for another panel. So smoothly, Uzair, I'll hand over to you. And I would suggest Uzair and Sahib and Haider, as part of your introduction, can you also share with all of us what is sort of your specific experience within the InsurTech sector? So what's the sort of relevant practical experience you have from there? And Uzair, let's start with you.
Thank you, Vladimira. Thank you. This is quite an interesting place. Thank you, CXO Global Forum, for having us. So I'll start with the very basics. I am end-to-end technology lawyer. I'm partner at this firm called AUC Law. I have been working with technology companies for the last 8 years, and as everybody who is listening will probably appreciate, the last couple of years have been a phenomenal interest in the technology sector. Insurance for sure is a part of it, but it has lagged behind perhaps some of the more mainstream industries such as logistics, such as e-commerce, which have attracted a lot of interest and from not only local investors, but also international venture capital funds. And therefore, there is a certain amount of lag when it comes to the insurance industry. Having said that, there is a significant amount of interest in the insurance sector as well. And I feel that we will probably be jumping a few hurdles along the way, and perhaps bypassing some of the other challenges that traditional insurance companies have faced in the past. and probably we will be getting into we as a country, considering such a large percentage of the population is young and has adopted technology, bypassed the traditional computer and switched directly to mobile for the purposes of connecting to the world. And I feel that insurance is ripe. The insurance industry is ripe for that innovation that technology has brought in other sectors. And in that sense, I feel that the InsurTech space can benefit significantly from the large population base that Pakistan has, the huge amount of potential that the young generation, which has recently switched to mobile and is being added to the pool of connected population, grows exponentially. I feel that the InsurTech space can perhaps benefit hugely from it. From a personal perspective, as a law firm, we have worked with not only traditional insurance companies but also work with InsurTech companies as well. I've had the good fortune of working with a few incubators, including NIC, and I have firsthand seen some of the participants of this InsurTech Summit as well start their pitch and who had just come into the space 3-4 years ago and are now significant players in the industry. And so while the industry in itself, I mean, the InsurTech industry has a lot of room for growth, and it is quite far behind in comparatively speaking with respect to other countries in the area. I feel that that is more of an opportunity, and whoever is able to solve the challenges that are there, I feel that there is a huge potential in this market. We have recently been working with a few aggregators as well, and therefore that has also given us an interesting insight into not just an insurance company that is delivering a particular insurance solution to the consumer, but also companies who are leveraging the use of technology. So that's it. I can talk a little more about the funding, for example, and the fundraising activities that are happening in the industry. But Vladi, I'm gonna leave that for later. Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you, Uzair. We'll absolutely get to it, and I'm very curious about the specific experiences you have, as you said, with supporting some of the InsurTech players in Pakistan. Sahib, would you mind introducing yourself in few sentences? And I also have a specific question sort of linked to it for you, which is really in reflection of the past, let's say 18 months, with the COVID really being the accelerator of the digitalization, but also for the end consumer, the increase in terms of the financial wellness needs, in terms of the health needs. There was a boost of momentum for insurance industry. So what is it that you have seen in the 18 months as a law firm, you as a legal practitioner, has been happening? Let's start from the wider technology sector. What has been happening through the COVID as a boost from a legal perspective, whether it's from the government or the regulator?
Hi, thank you, Vladimira. First, I would like to just introduce myself, Barrister Sahib Zadi. And just for my experience a little bit, I have worked, since the last few years, I've been working with startups, technology-based startups, and particularly in terms of the interest of this session, like I worked with certain insurance aggregators who are looking to kind of develop their model online as web aggregators, web agents for selling insurance products, policies for different insurers. And during my, like in the process of kind of helping them kind of develop that legal framework for them to function as one, I looked at, insurance laws that are already in place that kind of deal with the digital space in terms of the insurance industry. So in terms of that, I've kind of looked deeper into what is the difference between, let's suppose, an aggregator going online, and what are the challenges that they could face, and what are some of where is their lack in law that, as a lawyer, doesn't really help me understand what is required for them to kind of regulate their activities or to be compliant with the regulatory requirements. And what I kind of experience is that there's not one kind of space where you can go, even as a lawyer or as like the startup, to kind of see what you need to do and what are, like, what are the certain things that are the requirements for you to kind of fulfill in order to be compliant. So there's just like very little bits and pieces here and there talking about like improvement in digital kind of space for these like companies that are willing to kind of switch to that space. So since the last few years, because of COVID, as you said, like there's a lot of, like, because of lockdowns, everyone's sitting home. Not a lot of companies are operating in their full capacity. Because of that, everyone's kind of switching to like online kind of modes of purchasing different products, including insurance products, policies. So for that, since that's the trend, the government and the policymakers definitely were looking into how to better revise the existing law that's there for them to kind of have like a transparency over what they need to do and what they need to follow. So Securities and Exchange Commission of Pakistan, they have been looking into this a lot, and they have proposed changes in the insurance rules 2017. It's still a draft. It hasn't been passed yet. There's cybersecurity guidelines that have been issued, but the problem still stays there. There's not one legislative piece, like a draft, like, for example, regulations that have everything included in it, including data protection, the regime that's required for registration of the InsurTech, companies or web aggregators or individuals who are looking to kind of join that space. So they just have to look at different separate laws to kind of understand what's going on. So there's a lack of that for sure. And in terms of like one major problem is that there's definitely like data privacy issues involved here when there's so much information that's been shared online in Pakistan. Like that's a challenge because customers, they need to be sure, they need to have that kind of security where they can easily and comfortably share their information online and not rather than personally handing it in to the individual or the insurer they're working with. So other than guidelines, there needs to be like set laws, and the draft rules, they do somewhat address it, but we still need to kind of have regulations in order to like kind of go down that direction of clarity and transparency and also accessibility.
Thank you, Sahib. I mean, we touched already a number of those challenges that we'll have a chance to go deeper into, such as the data privacy, particularly in a sector that is so low trust, low awareness, right? And I think we've seen this actually globally. This is not unique to Pakistan. Yeah. Haider, please introduce a little bit of your experience working with the InsurTech players, or more, let's say maybe even more conventional insurance players. And I have also a question for you that is, it's going to take us a little bit step back, which is addressing what do you see are some of the key root causes of the low penetration in Pakistan compared to other countries in the region, whether it's in Asia, we can take the market, or even globally?
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Haider, and I'm a partner at AUC Law. First of all, I would like to thank CXO Global and Vladimira for the opportunity on being here on this platform. The topic, as we know, InsurTech, it's a relatively
I think we have a little issue with the connection with Haider. Let's give it a
Can you hear me?
We lost you, Haider, but I think we can hear you now. So yeah, welcome back.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so So, InsurTech is obviously a relatively new concept here in Pakistan. The insurance companies, insurers have been working here in Pakistan since long. The insurance ordinance started from 2020. The last regulations were on the corporate insurance agents in 2020. So I would say,
Yeah,
can you hear me now?
unfortunately, there is a little bit of that struggle with your connection, Heather. Let's give it a second chance. Otherwise, I would advise that maybe you check on the connection, and I'll take the conversation with Uzair and Sahib in the meantime. But please go ahead.
Sure.
Let's give it a second try.
Sure. So, as Sahib also pointed out, that the insurance regulation, insurance laws is in bits and pieces.
Yeah, I think there's probably an issue there. So maybe Heather try to rejoin. In the meantime, Uzair, looking at you, so let's address that. Like from your experience, I mean, working across different sectors, I mean, whether it's fintech, you're heavily involved there. How do you read some of those key root causes around InsurTech and generally the penetration of insurance in Pakistan? Let's just sort of lend the landscape, or let's map it out a little bit, and then we can really deep dive into the legal aspects of it.
So that's a fantastic question, and I feel that it's a chicken and egg problem, right? So while the ecosystem around fintech is certainly far has grown quite big in the last couple of years, it's still nowhere compared to our region. And I feel that as a consequence of the same, InsurTech has also lagged behind. And as the fintech space grows and the various bottlenecks that are associated with the fintech space, whether it is in the financial services sectors, on the access to finance, whether it is finance literacy, whether it is availability of finance to the right people at the right time, as far as the customer life cycle is concerned, as the delivery of financial services becomes more prevalent and is there in the wider context, I feel that the insurance industry is going to benefit from that as well. But I do want to talk about a particular challenge that the insurance industry has faced. As you can probably note, that we haven't had a lot of innovation in the insurance sector. And that is why when I started, I said that the laws have in many ways, the SECP as a regulator in many ways has actually taken the lead vis-a-vis the insurance sector, even though the industry in itself has not taken advantage of a lot of those regulations that have been there. So while I agree with Sahib when she says that a lot of the regulations are all over the place, as it were, there is absolutely no qualms in my mind that there is a genuine desire on the part of the regulator to actually help facilitate and grow this industry from where it is right now. And in that aspect, they have been talking about introducing InsurTech as or introducing laws and regulations associated with InsurTech, understanding that the delivery of the insurance product, for example, to the consumer when that consumer actually needs it, is paramount. And hence I feel that it is the chicken and egg problem, where the availability of financial products other than insurance will actually help grow the insurance industry, where the insurance industry is currently lacking behind. And I feel that if there is the introduction of consumer-friendly laws, for example, simplification of regulations. So that balance is made between the interest of the consumer and also making it possible for the service providers, the InsurTech players, to come into the market with a relative amount of ease. It will help the widening of the base, as it were.
Thank you, Uzair. So to build up on what you said, Sahib, so you sort of came from a lens of seeing the gaps and sort of identifying that, yes, it's as Uzair said, a little bit distributed. And what do you see could be the next sort of level of opportunities for the regulator, for the legal system to really facilitate the growth? And Uzair mentioned few, but you have the unique opportunity here, and I'm sure that there probably are some consultations that you might be part of, and so that the regulator hear your voice because you're really on the ground. So let's use the time today to actually get those up in the air. So what are some of the sort of opportunities that you see there and you would recommend for the regulator to look at? Sorry, Sahib, you are unmute. You have to, you're mute, sorry.
Yeah,
you have
yeah. Sorry. Yeah, so in terms of the regulations, it's not an easy process to introduce regulations and have them, from have them started and have them it's a process. It's a process here in Pakistan. It could take a while before, from today onwards, if we draft regulations, it's going to take a while for them to actually get implemented or turn into law, right? So before, during that process, even though I do recommend to start that process right away, because as I said, it's a long process. So the sooner we start kind of drafting those regulations and passing those regulations and kind of taking them to the next step, that should be kind of what should be happening right now. But in the meanwhile, there should be definitely guidelines, because obviously you can't a player cannot just wait for 4 or 5 years for those regulations to be implemented and turned into law before they actually start or they enter the space. So meanwhile, there has to be definitely guidelines issued that would help kind of the practitioners and everyone kind of understand what is expected of whom. Other than that, there has to be a certain InsurTech sandbox regulations kind of that need to be introduced and get started. India did something similar like that, I think a couple of years ago, probably 2019. But so kind of have that framework for those regulations as InsurTech sandbox, and have everything that you would kind of foresee be introduced in the sandbox for you to test out what really would be the result of actually having those regulations implemented. So that should definitely be happening right now as well. India, unfortunately, I was reading a few days back that they extended the deadline to have the applications and everything for that sandbox for another 2 years. So I think we should learn from other jurisdictions that are doing something very similar to this and see where the problems were and kind of learn and kind of deflect those issues so we can smoothly and quickly enter the space in order to avoid any, not being kind of same as other countries or countries like UK or Germany. They have these regulations and the space well defined for everyone to just enter and kind of have that going. But so for us, definitely have the regulations drafted as soon as possible, have the regulatory sandbox for InsurTech introduced.
Thank you. I mean, we've seen indeed similar movement in the UK when we were part of that ecosystem, when sort of InsurTech was really just emerging, that the sandbox initiatives were there. I think what was positive to see in Pakistan that I believe in the first cohort of the sandbox, there were, I believe, about 3 or 4 InsurTech startups, if I'm not mistaken. So there is some movement. So I think that's certainly positive.
Yeah, for sure. Just in terms of InsurTech, that needs to kind of be pushed a bit quicker and with more like rigor. That's what's needed. Other than that, you're right, that has been going on. SCCP is, they're very kind of like supportive in this whole kind of move. So there's not a problem. The thing is, they just need to everyone just needs to get together and have this going.
Is there, and this is out of my interest really as one of the players on the market, are you part of any consultations with the regulator in terms of, is there a place, is there a platform where you can actually voice those suggestions?
I think with Uzair, he can answer that question better because he's been.
Let me take that question. So the regulator, the SCCP, has a policy that whenever they introduce any wherever they want to propose laws or regulations. So if for example the law which has to be passed by the parliament, but it is being proposed by the regulator, or in the case of regulations which the SCCP as the regulator itself is going to introduce, what SCCP typically does is that it has a public consultation process where the regulations are shared in a draft form, allowing participants or stakeholders to give their feedback. So we have been working with the SCCP on another area. What Sahib has been mentioning, we haven't worked with the SCCP on the InsurTech space, but in the wider context of the sandbox, I think maybe what Sahib is getting at is to have a dedicated sandbox for InsurTech space, as opposed to a single sandbox, which obviously has other industries as well. And in that context, just as an example, UK sandbox regime has typically 70 to 80 companies who are operating and working with the securities regulator at any point in time. We currently have, or the SCCP currently has 5 or 6, and therefore, obviously, the amount of opportunity the insurance sector has is obviously going to be drowned out by other sectors as well. So, if in the context of InsurTech, maybe we can have a insurance-specific sandbox.
Thanks, Uzair. Haider, welcome back. Let's give it a try. So I'm curious, because one of the important players in this whole sort of insurance ecosystem that has been in some way reacting to this digitizing movement that has been happening in the last few years and really emphasized through COVID are the more conventional, traditional insurance players. So from your experience, where do you see the opportunity for those to not die out, but really be part of the shift? What do you see happening? What would you sort of advise? I'm sure in the audience and the listeners, there are a lot of those players as well.
Yeah, I think my voice is clear this time. Yeah, lucky. So, continuing the point that Sahib raised, just going to add a little bit on the previous point regarding the regulations. So the regulations are obviously scattered there in bits and pieces. We have got, with regards to data protection, we've got the PICA, Prevention of Electronic Crimes Act 2016. We've got the Insurance Ordinance 2000. We've got the Insurance Rules 2017. And then there came the Corporate Insurance Agents Regulations 2020. So what needs to be done, and obviously it's going to take a little bit time, that all of these regulations need to be compiled into one single document. For that, yes, a sandbox application would be very helpful for the regulators to see and identify the risks relating to the stakeholders, to the market, and how the sandbox application would perform. By performing those tests in the sandbox application, the regulators would then be able to, devise a better framework, legal framework for the new sector, the InsurTech, to perform well in the country. Since obviously we have new entrants in Pakistan who are using technological innovations I would like to name some of them. These includes Comet Insure, Movazna, we've got Easy Insurance, and Smart Choice. Obviously, there are a lot more participants as well, but these are the new entrants. So, in order to have more and more players into the market who would be competing with the more conventional insurance companies, the need is to have a legal framework. The impact that these new entrants, the insurtech industry would have on the traditional insurance would be they're competitive. So with technology, the thing is either you be at par with the technology or you feel you have the risk of being eliminated. Uh, Technology, as we know, so it allows the insurtech companies, they allow the consumers to have very quick, rapid responses. The insurance policies that are being provided are very spontaneous, on point. They're very flexible. So the credibility overall increases. With the conventional insurances, there's hassle, there's human interference. It takes a lot of time. Then you have productivity and efficacy issues. So I believe in order to compete with the insurtech and the new modern technological insurance companies, the previous companies, the traditional conventional insurance companies, need to uh, what I would say, bring up their game and be more technological, adaptive with relates to the insurtech companies.
I mean, I guess easier said than done, and we've seen this heavily in my experience within the European and UK market, and indeed, I mean, there is either you die out or you jump on the train and you collaborate. Uzair, what specifically are you seeing that the existing players in the insurance space are doing to actually jump on the train?
So a couple of things I have noticed that have happened. Number one, they're not, as we discussed in the beginning of this discussion, that there are not a lot of insurance players in the market, but the few that operate in Pakistan have all taken an interest in the insurtech space one way or the other. For example, some of them have partnered with technology companies to help them deliver their product to the customers in a much more technologically savvy manner. So compared to the traditional Salesforce funnels that existed for these insurance companies, has definitely taken they have definitely taken a welcome to the tech players in the market. That is one. And two, one interesting example is that, and without naming the insurance company, they actually asked us to help them set up a completely new digital arm for them to help facilitate their transition over to the digital sphere. And as we know, the SECP has also uh, had consultations and has made different comments around the concept of digital insurer, which basically, like the name suggests, is basically an organization that operates purely on the digital sphere. And in that context, there is at least one player who is interested in setting up a completely new digital insurance arm, armed with the data and the information that it already has at its disposal with respect to its traditional business. So I do think that the existing players are not standing still. What is probably the issue is that the pie for the insurance industry is not as big as compared to other countries. So as a percentage, and I know that people in this summit have been talking about the amount of penetration that insurance has as a percentage of GDP is 1/10 of some other countries in our region, and therefore the primary objective of all the stakeholders is actually to find ways to make that pie bigger so that everybody can benefit out of it. And that may include introduction of the digital insurance. It will help if the insurance delivery is made as smooth and without as limited friction as possible. Hence, the purpose of these consultations as well is to identify those bottlenecks, identify areas in which the insurance industry as a whole can grow. And if it does, everybody is going to benefit from that. And the way, looking at it from the legal side, the way to do that is what Sahib and Haider have been talking about: making laws more simpler, making them much more accessible for the technology company who may not have 20 years of insurance experience, who may be coming from the InsurTech from a completely new angle, which is digital, which does not, they may not have the same level of experiences that the traditional insurance player would have. And therefore, it's to help make those players come into the market and help make the pie bigger, which will ultimately benefit everybody.
I mean, you talked a little bit about how would we increase the overall penetration and increase the pie, right? In terms of the insurance, I think that's absolutely systemic sort of cause or a problem that we are addressing here, and you can really start from different places. Some that you mentioned in terms of from a legal perspective, there is a piece around the whole awareness and education of the end consumer, as we said before, right? I mean, very low trust and low awareness space. Sahib, I'm interested. Let's go a little bit more towards the practical experience that you have working with some of those new InsurTech players. So, what are some of the key challenges that, when you work with them from a legal point of view, they're facing? And let's see if we sort of reiterate what you already said. But is there anything else that we haven't mentioned that, from the practical experience, worth to be mentioned?
Okay, so generally, like insurance law, it is very regulated. It's highly regulated area. There's very set specific requirements, compliances that insurers have to kind of comply with. In comparison to the other sectors, I feel like this is one of the highly regulated kind of industries in terms of the law that exists. So for InsurTech companies to come in and see what's kind of going on for them, it's just, I think the challenge is that it needs to be like, they need to water down those requirements a bit for the online aggregators or the insurance companies, and soften down those requirements further, because those laws that were drafted in 2000 and a few years back, they didn't really envision that this was going to happen, and they were kind of drafted for those traditional insurance companies or agents who were kind of operating in a traditional sense. So that's kind of the challenge here, that it's not the same anymore. Those kind of requirements don't really always make sense for someone who's coming on a digital space. For example, it doesn't really talk about data protection that we already talked about, like in cybersecurity, like all of those issues that come in. So what do they have? Like what are the protocols that you need to set for you to function in a space, like in a cyberspace? How do you analyze the data? Because on paper, it's different. The traditional companies, insurance companies, agents, they're dealing with the data that they receive on paper differently versus, online. There's artificial intelligence that's involved when you go online and, you put your data, they give you the policies that kind of suit that. So all these are challenges that there's going to be the lawyers are going to face the challenges in order to draft terms and conditions or privacy policies for all these individuals or companies that are coming in the space. So there's a lot of confusion as to what are the protocols, to what extent can you put these requirements on them for them to fulfill. What does the law say? So that's the thing, like that's the complication. And I think the reason I'm like talking about data privacy, data protection again and again is because that's like one of the biggest issues that's going to be kind of different versus, you know, different from the traditional space. So that's something that needs to be addressed, analyzing the data, the external and internal sources, third-party providers for like cloud. So there's so much, like, you know, there's service providers like sitting, you know, international, like outside Pakistan, like, can you send them your data, like your customers' data? How do you contract with them? Like, are you allowed? Are you not allowed? So there's like a lot of confusion in terms of this. So that needs to be addressed. That's one big issue that I think, one big challenge for this kind of new initiative that everyone will be facing who's involved in this space.
Any other thoughts? Just looking at Haider and Uzair to add, because I think this is critical, right? To also translate the voice of those players that are already experimenting, and they are in some way really the pioneers of breaking this new ecosystem. So we have the opportunity to voice it now. What else is there, or has Sahib sort of covered it in a good extent?
Haider, do you want to take it? Okay, so I think yeah, I think Sahib has probably encapsulated the issue quite succinctly. I don't think that it is possible to perhaps articulate all of the issues here, because we are at the end of the day a function of our experiences. Sahib clearly identified the one experience that she faced at our so I feel that one area in which, and I know this is perhaps more Haider's point than mine, but having that in InsurTech sandbox can allow the regulator to listen to the needs of the stakeholders much more efficiently versus any single conversation can provide. For example, if you are operating in that space in the sandbox regime, you are able to communicate with the regulator on a regular basis, explain the challenges that you are facing. So I'll give you one example, which I feel that can perhaps encapsulate and complement what Sahib just said. There is now clearly a transition from the traditional insurance companies with an insurance agent coming to your office or your home, or into being connected to you through some acquaintance coming and talking to you and saying, look, this is the insurance product that I have, would you like to buy it? Versus what is happening now in 2021 and beyond is a lot of these consumers are going to be using the internet to be able to acquire the products that they need. And it is up to the insurance providers to be there at the right time to be able to provide those products to the consumer when they need it. For example, if I am just about to book a ticket online and I'm about to take that flight from a website, is there an insurance company that is going to offer me an insurance product right there as part of the same transaction while I'm on my way to book my journey? Now, that is just one example in which the insurance company is or a digital insurer can be there right at that point and is able to provide the solution that I need. Versus somebody coming and telling me that, look, next time you book a ticket, you can actually buy our insurance. And I have to actually keep that in my mind, that this is the company that I need to reach out to when I'm booking my ticket. And answering this in the context of laws, the regulator can help make a lot of these products made accessible versus what is the case in right now with all of the challenges that comes with providing a particular product to the consumer. So that's just one example.
Yeah, no, I would just echo it really, because we are experiencing it even with Neem Exponential in Pakistan. So as an example, one of our portfolio companies operates in the agri-tech space. They're serving about 16 million farmers across Pakistan. One of the embedded finance products that we are trying to bring to the farmer is insurance, is a weather insurance. So it's exactly, Uzair, what you were saying in terms of, if I know that tomorrow or on Sunday there is going to be a storm, I want to protect my crops, because that is indeed impact for myself, for my family, community, right? So we are really talking about the overall wellness of that end consumer, and that insurance can contribute to a huge extent to that protection. So the good thing is that we are talking to some players here in Pakistan about creating such products, but seeing the legal system to really facilitate this would be essential. Maybe just to also share another example from abroad, where we, or global perspective, where we sort of mirrored the example. One of the really successful InsurTech companies was Climate Corp. That was exactly weather insurance. It has been acquired by Monsanto for about $1 billion, and not to sort of use that as a value, but the impact that they measured, that they created for the end consumer was massive. So I think we are talking about one of that really important aspect, that is that immediate access, the personalization towards the needs of that end consumer. And maybe I'm just looking at the time. We have about 6 minutes together, and I have asked this question when promoting the session on LinkedIn, and I would love to sort of maybe end on that note, which is really around that wellness and inclusion of the consumer. Because at the moment, what we see is that even the current insurance players in Pakistan are serving about 5% of the overall population, and they're mostly from the high-end, high-income society. Where do you see the opportunity to really use InsurTech, the technology players across insurance, to be the tool for including also the most marginalized? And we can talk here about low-income parts of our society, or the transgender communities, women, etc. Where do you see the opportunity here to be a tool of change, really? Maybe Haider, do you want to take it, or really opening the floor to any of you?
I would say not my day today. Bad connections again and again. My apologies. So
no worries.
Yeah,
yes.
So one of the biggest issues of, I would say, low penetration would be lack of consumer awareness, lack of education to the consumers. And I mean, I was reading an article, the CEO of Bima, so it's a micro insurance provider in Pakistan. He mentioned in an interview that 75% of our subscribers have never had insurance before. So if the consumers don't know what the insurance is, and do they even need it or not, that's the biggest issue in the insurance industry. So even if we do go ahead with all the regulations, we do go ahead with all the plannings and all the InsurTech companies entering into the Pakistani insurance sphere, one of the biggest hurdles that would be faced would be lack of awareness. So I would say, alongside with all the regulations and all the homework that needs to be done, consumer awareness is a very big issue that needs to be addressed. So if we go side by side with these two things, I think the InsurTech industry would obviously connect the low income people who cannot afford expensive insurances. They would provide those people, those families, to have insurance, and get along with the risks that they may have in their lives. So, Uzair sir?
Was there any?
No, I think that's a very good point, and I'm going to agree to it wholeheartedly. The insurance industry certainly suffers from a PR crisis. I mean, I wouldn't call it a crisis, but definitely a PR challenge. And having the right set of and Vladi, this is actually the answer to your question, right? So what can technology do? I think a low hanging fruit is that providing access to information right on the palm of your hand in the form of your mobile. It can the access to that information is right there. You don't have to go anywhere to get it. If you as a consumer who is a farmer has access to that information right there on their phone, telling them that, look, this is a forecasted weather event that's coming, would you like to take an insurance product, and it's right there, and the law and the technology come together to help facilitate that consumer. That's the holy grail.
Yeah, indeed. And the lower cost of distribution and the technology, I think, is another important enabler here to not forget. I do have one last. We have two more minutes. Sahib, with this whole sort of revolution and change that is happening, there is also a shift that is happening around the talent, right? That is facilitating this new ecosystem. I'm curious from your experience, guys, from a legal perspective, facilitating something like InsurTech, how are you seeing the change around the talent that is there within the legal space? We know that, different type of capability like data scientists is required, let's say, in the technology space and many more. What's happening from the talent and capability perspective in the legal space?
So everyone has access to internet, even kids, they're great at, using phones, so I think the generation that's coming, they're very technology friendly. Every industry, every sector is really growing in terms of technology and how well aware you are of, everything around it. So I think that shouldn't really be a problem for the next generation and even the current generation and everyone, all the, the talent that's coming in. They will, even because of COVID, we're actually more technology friendly now than we were before. So all of those things kind of add up. And I think all those things will kind of add on to kind of push this forward and make it a success. So I don't see any problem in terms of, the talent kind of not being able to kind of, adapt to the changes that are happening in the tech space, particularly insurance technology. I think it should be fine. Yeah, really.
I think we can also see it really as an opportunity for, let's say, and it doesn't have to be just the youth, right? But for the talent to come and enter the space that you three represent, which is exciting and it's really essential for facilitating that change. So I think that's another exciting sort of area that has opened up. I'm looking on the time. I think we're just about right there. It's been really insightful. Thank you. I would like to thank all three of you for, I guess, the session today, but even more so for your work on the ground, and the CXO Forum for really giving us the opportunity to voice the legal aspects and challenges for the InsurTech space in Pakistan. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you, Vladimira. Thank you, Barrister Uzair, and your colleagues as well. This has been an insightful discussion, to say the least. There wasn't even a moment where I was distracted. And you've truly shown us some unprecedented conversations about InsurTech. With that, ladies and gentlemen, keep watching, and we hope and pray that you stay safe during the pandemic. And this InsurTech Summit 2021 was an attempt for all of us, from all of us, to really contribute to the knowledge economy. So keep watching and keep us updated with your feedback and comments. That will be all. Like I said, this was the ending session. But if you want to hear about more topics, write to us, and we'll definitely try and keep that in mind. Thank you. With that, I'm going to officially close the session.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.